Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Online Teaching Show, a show where I try to feature other online teachers that are doing great things and building their online teaching business in different ways. And I'm excited about the guest today that we have on the show. Just wanted to say hi to a few people who were popping in. If you are watching live, you can say hi in the chat. You'll see the chat rolling on the right-hand side if you're on Facebook or on YouTube. And please do say hello. Would love to know where folks are tuning in from. Kelly's the first one. Gosh, I've seen a few of your videos, Kelly. So yeah, I think you're still with a couple of companies, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know what you're up to. And good to see Masangu here again as well. And Renee and Hey Mary, good to have you. Facebook user. You can authorize Facebook to show your name if you would like. You are an online teacher from South Africa. Awesome. And this is Malini. Hello, hello. Good to have you. If you've got a story to share, if you've got an online teaching story, maybe you've had some success in independent teaching, or you would love to come on the live sometime with me on a Monday and share your story, please use the link that will be below this video. It's a form to fill in, and I will get your information and would love to connect with you and see if we could have you on one of my upcoming shows. So don't be shy. I think everyone has a story, and I'd love to feature you on the channel at some point if you would like to come on and talk about your online teaching journey. So great. Let's see if Alan is ready. He's down there. I'll bring him up. Hello, Alan.
Hello.
Good to have you. Thanks for joining the show to chat about online teaching. You're in the UK, right?
I am, yeah. Am I meant to see you, Tim?
Yes, you are meant to see me.
On my computer. No, I can't see you.
Okay, you're in the stream, so you've probably got a tab. It would be a tab somewhere to be able to see the you and I sitting next to each other here. Hello, okay. Ivy Super Kid. Can you see me now?
No.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. We'll carry on. I don't need to see myself.
You'll be able to see afterwards.
Yes,
but you can hear me, right?
I'll watch it back later tonight.
All right, there you go. Well, you've got a nice green screen behind you anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, tell everyone where you're from and a little bit about how you got started with online teaching.
Yeah, well, I'm from the UK, residing in the UK at the moment. I wasn't always up to 2020. I was living and working in China with my 2 children and my Chinese wife. I was working for an independent English school as a recruiter and a teacher, and planned a journey back to the UK to visit family in January 2020 as all the COVID nightmare was kicking off. And then the 3-week visit turned into relocation.
Yeah, so you were right at the beginning of when all that happened.
Yeah, it was, and it was all happening around me. I could really sense this growing fear that was like in China first, and then other people, as I was recruiting and speaking, doing interviews with possible teachers for the school, they started asking me about this virus. And I was like, what virus? What? There's no problem. And then it just escalated really quickly. So when I got on the plane to come back to the UK, there was like hazmat suits. Everything in the airport was all like officially, it was like a war zone. It was really strange.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been incredible to see that, like, because you were really, sort of ground zero of where it was all kind of happening. And then I think the rest of the world was sort of feeling it maybe a couple months after that.
Yeah, it's a good expression. Good way. Good way. I know my sister kept a few weeks leading up to the visit. She was sort of, are you definitely coming? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, and it was really possible that they could have grounded all the flights. I was leaving Qingdao, which was in the northeast.
Yeah, actually, all my students are from Qingdao.
Yeah, and there was a city that had been like directly affected. It was quite a hot spot at one point. So I was quite nervous being at the airport, thinking, "Am I going to actually get out of here?"
Right. Wow. I
But I
can't
did.
imagine. And then that just yeah. And then that just turned into what? Did you lose your job from that or yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the flights were cancelled a few times, and then it was made really difficult to get back to China. They
Yeah.
restricted a lot, and that's when I started looking at online teaching companies.
So what
And
happened then?
someone I'd looked at a few. I can't remember the names, but some of the obvious search ones.
Yeah.
And then someone mentioned Wales English.
Yeah.
And that looked like quite a nice sort of company, a nice, friendly looking company with some sort of good quality material.
Yeah.
So I started working for them, built up classes quite quickly to a full schedule, and things were going quite well, really.
And Wales was a good company for British teachers because there were fewer options. A lot of them were sort of only hiring North Americans. So I know Wales was probably one of the
Yeah,
best ones out there for folks like you in the UK.
yeah, and it fitted quite well into the time zone difference as well.
Yes,
It didn't
yeah,
mean I was working at 2 a.m. in the morning.
yeah, yeah. You
It,
were
it
kind of
was it
more
was
of a
quite
flexible
suitable
workplace.
that way. It was good.
Okay, so Wales English until I'm guessing August of 2021.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, then
D
what
Day.
happened? You woke up and got a new job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was again something had been brewing. I was thinking there was a lot of people questioning these new restrictions and the Chinese government bringing these things in. But having lived in China for 4 or 5 years, I was aware of how they threatened to introduce policy to bring an industry in line most
Yeah.
of the time, or to make it work for them. So I
Mm,
was probably a bit laissez-faire about it, a little bit casual, thinking, it won't happen.
mm.
But then it did happen,
I think I
and
was
then
the
that
same. I mean, I had also sort of seen those kind of kind of global threats and things like that
yeah,
that just didn't necessarily always materialize. And then,
yes,
yeah, you're right. This was big. So then it all happened. And did Wales end contracts overnight? I can't remember now if they were kind of a
yeah.
gradual exit or
They were. I mean, it seemed again. This is where it's really not a good idea to believe in any companies, really, because you sort of people when companies that try to make out they're a family company, like and they care for you, you do sort of fall into the trap of believing that sometimes. So
Mhm.
then, when they were saying, "Oh, it's okay," the classes that have been booked will end. And I was looking at most of my classes, and there was still, a lot of teaching to be done. But
Mm.
then they just pulled the plug, pulled the rug, and then
Wow.
I remember looking at one evening, checking my schedule for the next day, and just everything had cleared from that
Wow.
day. And that was, I know I said to my wife, who's Chinese, I said, all my schedule's gone. And she said, well, it's probably a technical issue. And I'm like, it's not a technical issue. This is more than a technical issue. Like,
Yeah.
and then there was just that groundswell of a lot of teachers going online and questioning, and the Wales English Facebook page was
Blowing up.
crashing with
Yeah.
all these teachers saying what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I remember Wales. There was a lot of teachers looking for students with Wales.
Yeah,
And there was a lot of that, like teachers getting on WeChat and massive groups of, 500, I think in
yeah,
groups, WeChat groups, teachers and parents. And it was kind of chaos. There was another company. I don't know if you ever heard of GoGo Kid, but
yeah,
they were a little bit like VIP Kid, that they did an
yeah,
overnight shutdown, and it was a little bit similar. So
yeah.
like how did you feel in that point, and like what were you sort of did you have a contingency plan? Did you do any preparations? Did you where were you at in your head when that all happened? Because essentially you had no work.
Yeah. What I'd not done, which I should have done, was just made sure that all the parents of the children that I taught, I had emails for,
Yeah.
or WeChat. I mean, I was on WeChat, but I didn't. I wasn't clever enough to make sure I had all those names and connections.
Well, outside of wanting to take them privately, I mean, what's the use except having friendly conversations, which some with parents, but most teachers didn't really want to do that outside of work. So, yeah, I don't blame you. But
I think also, Tim, I thought, well, what am I going to teach? I haven't got a curriculum. I haven't got lessons. I haven't got my own personal lessons to teach them at that time. So I think my thoughts were, how can I take them on when I don't have anything, any lessons? And I didn't know that people had this backup of Wales classes.
Yeah. Okay.
And were then continuing to teach Wales classes.
Yeah. Which is probably not allowed.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, and I'm not sure. I still to this day not even sure if they are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of it's out there.
Well, it's one of them. I mean, and I didn't know what was going on. My initial reaction was, I have to create my own classes. So I started creating my own classes, and then I went on platforms like Amazing Teacher and italki that I still use to get customers, although it's died off quite a lot over the last couple of months for some reason.
Okay. Talk to me about that. Like, what did you do after everything went south with Wales? Did you get on with the marketplaces like Amazing Talker and italki and some classes there?
Yeah, I got on with Amazing Talker, which didn't last very long because they promote this team ethic. So you get a team mentor, but you have to sort of do tasks, or you've got to work as a team. And it was like, well, I'm working on my own. I feel like I'm working for you, but I'm not being paid to work for you.
Right.
And they have this straight. I didn't like it generally. To cut a long story short, and I got on with italki, and I started getting quite a lot of students through italki quite quickly.
Okay.
Which was good. And I just prepared classes and created classes as the day before I was going to teach them. So I was working really hard for like 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
Where I was just, when I wasn't teaching face to face, I was pretty much just creating lessons and classes and lesson material, which I still use to this day.
So did that give you the confidence to then, I know you've got how many independent students? 5 or 6, did you say?
Well, I got six or 7 booked. Luckily, I did get the WeChat address of one of my students from Wales, who I still teach, and through that contact, I've got 3 or 4 other referrals, and I've picked up a few. I've got a few from WeChat, some advertising on WeChat, and I still get regulars through italki. So I have about 12 to 15 regular students, I would say, and 6 or 7 of them book through me directly.
Okay.
Which I'm trying to get more direct bookings, basically. Right.
So they're still booking through italki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to build my business up where I'm just the go-to person, cut out the middleman.
Yeah, for sure. Because I like your journey of sort of, the company to the marketplace is where a lot of people, whether it's italki or something like OutSchool, it does give you the confidence, I think, to kind of realize that you can do it. And, you obviously you spent a long time preparing lessons and worked hard at kind of creating your own thing. And now at the place of like, okay, let's get rid of the middleman and do it on your own. And we were talking before the live about how, one person's roadmap isn't the same as everyone's. And I wanted to have you on just to chat about like, sort of your perspective on it and how you're doing it, and what your sort of process is for it all in terms of creating lessons, or how you price your classes and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what it looks like for your independent teaching now?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think creating classes was something I did try when I was working for Wales to create classes, because I could see where the lessons didn't work for Wales. I could see that some of the lessons were just not good for the children. There wasn't enough talking in them. There wasn't enough sort of interaction where they could use English. There was far too much time and space where they were just in the dark. So I knew what I wanted my lessons to look like, but I'd never created a lesson from start to finish before. So I learned a heck of a lot doing that, and that then allowed me to understand what I want them to get from each lesson, as a lesson, rather than just is it a certain amount of dictation or reciting? Is it where they're free thinking a lot more, or but basically there was still that need just to get the basics of a bread and butter lesson, so that I could actually teach something to get paid for, if you see what I mean. So I couldn't strive for perfection. I just had to have something that I could work with.
Yeah, I think you're sort of talking about having a framework, right? Just something in place that could sort of guide eventually where you wanted the student to get to. And I want just while I'm thinking about it, I wanted to ask you, so do you recommend, or what has worked for you, creating those lessons, which takes a lot of work, or do you use some pre-made stuff as well, or a combination of things?
Yeah, there's two websites I use quite a lot that I pay towards, which is ESL Kids stuff, which is good for
stuff,
good for lower level kids. Suitable pictures, suitable images, and then you get an idea of a curriculum plan as well from that, which helped quite a lot.
Yeah.
And also Twinkle I subscribe to, because for older children, and even in some adults classes, I might use, I don't think it's brilliant. I think a lot of their PowerPoint lesson plans are a bit stale and a bit boring. So I have to, I download them and then I change them. I make them a bit more dynamic and a little bit more interesting. So yeah, those two websites I would recommend to anyone who's thinking, how do I create a curriculum when I've never done it before? And even though you're aware of the levels, it's still good to have something that you can refer to that says, right, well, for this age group and this level, then this, and even if you don't follow that completely, it sort of gives you something to hold on to and build on.
Well, here's the thing, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we're not all curriculum developers with the pedagogy behind the sort of sequential, might be great teachers. And, I think I did a great job in the classroom teaching, but again, creating a curriculum is not everybody's forte. So there's a lot of pre-made curriculum out there, as well as, some websites like Twinkle and the other one you mentioned. I hadn't heard of that one, ESL Kids stuff, which can provide a framework, at least for you to work with. So with those lessons, so you sort of use those and then you kind of adapt them to the student. Is that what you're?
Yeah. And I think this is something that, I don't know if it's a mistake or whether it's a positive, but when you've got one-on-one lessons and you're very much trying to make it work for every specific student, I tended to maybe make them too student specific. So
Okay.
I was, and you cannot waste time, but you can spend a lot of time thinking, how can I make this special for them and them alone? So you end up spending time doing 3 or 4 slides maybe that reference something about them that you can't use in any other class.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And
Definitely.
whether that's a trap or whether, I mean, if you've got loads of time, but I've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
So I don't, it's like you've got to realize you need to create something that's functional for as many students as you can.
That's right. Yeah.
Because
you want to be able to, well, ultimately you want to be able to reuse if you are creating lessons, you want to be able to reuse them. Mary's asking a question here. What classroom setup do you use, Alan? So is that what you use? I think she's referring to Zoom maybe, or something like Classing.
Yeah, something I noted down that I would mention. So I've used Zoom pretty much all the time.
Yep.
But recently I've noticed, especially for Chinese students, there seems to be a growing lag with the Zoom and problems. So I'm now, in the last few weeks, I'm trying out Classing.
Classing, okay.
And I'm starting to sort of see how I can, the benefits of using that rather than, I mean, it's like any new platform seems just bizarrely weird to start with. And
yeah,
you hate everything about it for a while. And you're like, I don't like that. And I hate that. And
yeah,
but I'm getting used
to things you're going to hate and like about Classing, and there's going to be things you hate and like about Zoom. And, there's nothing perfect, but I also use it. It's not perfect, but it is widely used in China with online classes. So I would say almost all my students already had Classing downloaded as an app. So it was a pretty.
And I'm finding that.
Things.
I'm finding that as well, Tim. That I mentioned Classing to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Classing, yeah." So it's just in a way, it seems to be a lot easier than going through the Zoom.
Yeah.
Rigmarole.
So you're at about, you've got lots of contacts, and what's your sort of like plans moving forward to sort of move away from the marketplace and build your independent teaching business? And
my main plan is that I keep coming back to is not spending too much time on general classes.
Okay.
Like generalists, I'm preparing and developing these reading classes that I'm doing, which started out as reading for fun. The idea was that people on or kids on italki or adults on italki would read their favorite book, and I would just help them with pronunciation and vocabulary. But I'm sort of developing it where it's a more specific class. Originally it just seemed like, well, I don't have to prepare anything for that class. If they book that class, I just sit and listen to them. But it didn't work out like that anyway, because you can't just sit and listen to someone read. Unfortunately, so I'm my idea is developing 2 or 1 or 2 classes and developing them into group classes. I really want to develop the idea that there's a group of children can interact with themselves for like an hour. And I know on your website I saw 2 months ago, a month or so ago, I can't remember the name of it. I think it was the Elon Musk thing.
Synthesis.
Yes. Yeah. And I looked into that and I thought, ideas around that is what I'm thinking of.
Having students sort of collaborate together and
yes, but with a much more definite framework for them to follow that actually can start at one point and then finish where I know they will finish at, rather than it being a bit too random.
Gotcha.
And that's the sort of ideas I'm thinking about.
Chaos with control. I guess is a good way.
Yes, yeah, but where they have fun and where they can interject and make decisions that then lead to either bad things
Yeah.
happening or good things happening.
That's right. And really with group classes, you can make more and scale a little bit
Yeah,
more with that. We've
yeah,
got a couple comments. Katie is in Japan. Actually, Katie's got her own curriculum that is a subscription service called Abridge Academy. She says, I used to do an English news reading comprehension and discussion group class on OutSchool, which was really popular. Reading classes work really well. And she said she focuses on science stuff, but I did really love the reading course. Yeah, I think niching down is also what you're kind of referring
yeah,
to, and getting a little bit more specific on what you offer, which
yeah,
again can also lead to being able to charge a bit more as well. So
yeah. I think that's the one. Overall, I think teachers, once they start creating lessons, are quite comfortable with creating lessons.
yes,
But I think there are some people and teachers who are more social media savvy than
right,
others, and I'm
yeah,
unfortunately not. So the one thing that I'm having the biggest problems with is just formulating that campaign, or that where and part of me is why I did the interview today. I want to sort of reach out a lot more, and to sort of increase my presence.
yeah, that's great. Are you looking at marketing like on for towards Chinese students? I mean, with your wife being Chinese, is she able to help at all with that? Because she would have more of an into
Yeah,
Chinese
I mean,
social
if she
media.
is able to help, she hasn't done so far.
Okay.
I know it's something that I've nudged and prodded her about, but she doesn't seem to
Yeah.
want to push that side of it. But I'm
Yeah.
and again, I'm very concerned about targeting a specific country or specific market.
Which is what?
Well, I don't want to target us. I'm wary
Okay,
of
you
it.
don't.
I
I
don't
see.
want, because this is the thing with niches in a way, because if you have a niche and that niche goes down, but I know you need a niche so that you can, specialize. But
Yeah.
I'm very wary of, maybe
Are you
more
worried
after what.
about? Are you concerned about targeting the Chinese market and that kind of becoming more difficult to access over time?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think just in general, Tim, I think in online teaching in general is so controllable that
Mm,
it's almost like you need eggs in completely different
sure.
baskets.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
because online classes can be stopped
Yes.
instantly wherever, and I lost quite a few students from Russia
Okay.
when the war started. I lost about 7 or 8 students, regular students, who couldn't pay me
Okay.
anymore and couldn't continue. So
Yeah.
again, that sort of kicked me a little bit in terms of, well, nothing I've done leads me to losing students. So it's just, yeah, at the moment I'm trying to be more global and increase my social media presence.
I think that's good. And like what my suggestion would be is to stick with one to start with. Just pick
Yeah,
what medium you're comfortable with. I
yeah,
mean, you're doing like an interview with me on video, and that's great. Video is really where a lot of social media is kind of moving towards
yeah,
prioritizing video. So
yeah,
something like Instagram or
yeah,
Facebook or something like that would be a good
yeah,
starting place. I would just pick one and go all in with it.
yeah.
And you've already got a good base of students as well, so I think you can rely a little bit on referral marketing just to kind of
Mm,
get you some more, especially in the same niche or
yeah,
area that you want to focus on. You've got a good little base there to start with.
yeah.
So keep working at it. I've got a few comments here. Katie's says social media marketing seems scary, but think of it as building a relationship and sharing value
Mm,
to help your target audience. Don't
yeah,
advertise, just go there and look help out. Yeah, it's all about just, you know, if you look at the successful teachers that are on social media, they're just giving, you know, tons of free tips and little things here and there.
And they're giving them constantly as well. I think it's the thing that I for a couple of days I can get really on it, and I can post and I can put content on, and then for a couple of days I'll be busy or I just won't find time, and you lose that momentum of, because Pete, you've got to put it on all the time.
But I'll tell you, the people that are doing it, you know, a lot of the people that you see that are maybe posting regularly are scheduling it. So you could sort of do something where, you know, every Sunday you make 5 posts for the week, right? And you just snap it out like that. And you've got a little bit of a, I have to do that with some things because it's, who has the energy and the time every single day to do that? It's very difficult, you know?
Not me, for sure.
Hey, King, I recently got a student from Italy on, so there's a Chinese app called Xiaohongshu. I'm sure you've heard of that.
I have, yeah.
And she said she got a student from Italy on that app, which is interesting. So it also works for diversifying your student base. You never know.
I've tried that because I know there's Kinga and Chris and Kinga.
Yes, I had them on,
yeah, you had them on, and I did the 5-day thing that they did, and I've posted on Little Red Book a few times, but maybe I'm not doing it right. But I haven't got anything back from it. But it's not something that I think isn't of value. I just don't think I'm particularly doing it well enough. I don't think the content I'm putting on.
You just, you know, it's consistency. It's showing up a lot. And sometimes it's, God, I mean, if my YouTube channel took about a year before I got 100, you know, subscribers or whatever. And it was really painstaking. And I almost gave up because I thought, what's the point? And then it just kind of, I don't know, just traction happens out of nowhere. So yeah. Kinga says, hi, Alan. Do you have a separate Facebook page for marketing your teaching? I mean, you certainly could, Facebook user there. Yeah. I mean, if you're targeting a more global market, I'd recommend having a teacher Facebook page because it just keeps it separate from your Facebook profile, and you can put your teaching content on there. Kishla says being consistent on social media is so hard sometimes. Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah, it is.
Just, I would say, you know, choose something that's manageable. Like every time I've thought of doing something every day, it just fails miserably. So you know, if it's once a week, do it once a week for a while. And get comfortable with that, you know? Yeah, and Katie says the algorithm on Xiaohongshu doesn't care too much about consistency. Key thing is to focus on posting things that are genuinely valuable, optimizing for keywords and posting in Chinese. Yeah, and you could use. Do you speak Chinese?
A little bit, not enough, not as much as I should have done for having a Chinese wife.
No excuse.
I know. Well, no, there isn't. There's only deep shame.
No, it's difficult, guys. As I said to you before, I lived there for 3 years, and I picked up enough Chinese that I could have a great chat with about a 3-year-old, and that was 9 years ago. So my Chinese is just shameful, but I would love to get back in.
There's some very clever Chinese children, the 3-year-olds. They have a lot of vocabulary at that age.
Yeah. Listen, I know you've got to pick up the kids in a little while. That's why we had to move the live a little earlier. But is there anything you want to share just about your journey, or, you know, advice, you know, to teachers that are maybe trying to bridge that gap?
I think just keep going and try and overcome the problems as you can, and little bit by little bit. Give the things you're good at, really put a lot of energy in those. And then try and drip feed a bit more into what you're not good at, and don't think it's unassailable. Because as much as I have difficulties with some sides of the business, I still deep down think I can reach the summit and conquer it. And
it's
I
mindset.
think that
what you're saying is just, that's so good. Like, it's mindset. And once you understand that you can get there, that, none of us have any special superhuman powers. We're just,
Yeah.
it's so much of it is mindset. And I just really appreciate you saying that, because I think that's helpful for people watching.
Yeah.
That are
I don't know when it'll happen, but I think it will happen. And I believe in myself that it will happen if certain things align. And I
well,
really
look at
do
you.
believe that.
You're a year into it since everything went south with Wales, and look at where you are now. So I think that that's awesome. Mary says, yes, it's a huge journey in personal growth. It really is, because
It is.
you're all of a sudden kind of doing things on your own.
Yeah.
Well, Alan, it's been great to chat. We could chat for a while, I'm sure, but I really appreciate you coming on. And did you end up seeing do you see me yet?
No, it's been quite good, actually, because I get nervous if I can see myself as well.
Okay, you look great. Everything was good.
Brilliant. I trust you,
Thank
Tim.
you so much for coming on, Alan. Stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Tim.
Have a wonderful day.
You as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was great. Thank you, Alan, for coming on. And thank you to those that were watching and engaging in the chat. It makes the show even more enjoyable. And again, if you've got a story to share about independent teaching, don't be shy. Reach out to me, and I would love to connect with you and have you on the channel. As you can see, everyone's journey is different, and I think Alan's story is helpful for those that might be kind of nervous about bridging that gap and scared about social media or marketing and those type of things. So don't let fear hold you back, and don't let your limiting beliefs prevent you from achieving what you want for yourself, whether it's with online teaching, independent teaching, or any venture or business that you want to get into. So thanks again, everybody. Great to chat with you all. And I wish you all a wonderful week, and I will see you next Monday, same time, same place. Take care.